Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 223 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is a fish that is requested by someone from the community, so if you do read the comments, you're probably gonna know what fish that we're doing. But I love doing requests and I love learning new things about fish, even if I already knew about the fish. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is the Wahoo. Now, the Wahoo, or scientific name, Acanthocybium solandri. Again, that's Acanthocybium solandri. It is part of the family Scombridae, which is the family of mackerel, tuna, and bonito. We've talked about some tuna, and if you've been following the channel a long time, you know my feelings about tuna fish. But, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. But the Wahoo is not like, the tuna, especially the bluefin tuna. Wahoo's doing just fine. I guess I'll kind of leave with that. Now, the Wahoo fish is found globally in tropical and subtropical waters, and they're usually living near the surface, so they're a pelagic fish. And they're usually solitary, but sometimes you'll find them in groups of 2 to 3 fish. It's important to note, though, that they will associate with some structure, such as natural debris or offshore oil and gas platforms. But those fish are not necessarily together. They're just happen to be in the same area. So, this isn't a schooling fish, and while sometimes you might find them, near like other Wahoo, especially around debris, they're not really schooling together. They just happen to be there at the same time. I know that sounds weird, but it's actually a fairly important distinction to make. Now, this is a rather large fish. It has been recorded up to about 2.5 meters, which is 8 feet 2 inches, and they've been recorded to weigh up to 83 kilograms, which is 183 pounds, which is very, very large, obviously. Now, usually they're between 1 and 1.75 meters, which is 3 to 5.5 feet. That's kind of the range that you're going to see them a lot more normal. They have this very kind of tuna / mackerel coloration, this really dark blue on the top, a kind of lighter blue on the side to a real silvery blue on the bottom. Here's a good example. You can actually see in this picture, which is why I chose it, the lateral line. If you look closely, it starts really high on the body and it has this huge swoop down, which is a good characteristic to note as well. This shows the coloration, I think, more beautifully than any. That real dark, this kind of light yellow silver to pale silver. But what's important also to note is they have these 25 to 30 dark irregular bars, or sorry, not dark, opposite, the white bars. These are the bars, these are not the bars. So 25 to 30 irregular light color. Excuse me, I'm recording this very late. Got very busy today, very, very busy. As you can see from this picture, they have this very long first dorsal fin, and they do have this second dorsal fin right here. That's a real kind of small sickle-shaped dorsal fin, and then you can kind of see it here. But if you look along the back and along the belly behind the second dorsal and second anal fin, they do have those finlets that are very commonly associated with tuna. Those real small fins, basically. This very, very pointed head. I always thought that the Wahoo kind of had a weird shaped head, because to me it looks like the mouth, it's like an overbite, with an underbite, because the mouth goes all the way back here. It's got a fairly large mouth. The head is super sharp and pointed, but the eyes just don't, to me, the eyes don't look like they match this head. I don't know why. It's probably just something for me, but the eyes just don't really look like they're in the right spot on the head. Like to me, it feels like they should be farther back or down. I don't know. Because having the eyes set that far ahead on a very pointed mouth just really doesn't sit well with me. But speaking of the mouth, they do have these very sharp triangular teeth with serrations on there. It's much more, they have about the most pointy head I think there is, and much more sharper than a mackerel, which is what a lot of people would probably confuse this with. If you just saw a picture of it, you'd be like, oh, that's a mackerel. But it's much more pointed than a mackerel. And you can see they're covered in small scales, covered. And they're extremely fast growing. Sorry. Don't know why I had that picture there. They're extremely fast growing. But they only live about 5 to 6 years, and they're able to reproduce at about 1 year old. And they reproduce when the males reach 2.8 feet and the females reach 3.3 feet. So that's really not a lot of time. In fact, it's probably going to be closer to like half a year to 3/4 of a year when they get that. But that's when they can spawn. So they can spawn relatively early, and they can spawn multiple times. They do spawn multiple times throughout the year. They're very productive. They'll release about half to 45 million eggs per year. Again, I want to say that 0.5 to 45 million eggs per year. They're very, very good at reproduction, which is why in terms of the tuna and bonito family, the Wahoo is not really in danger. It's doing surprisingly well, and doing very well. And a large part of that is, they're fast, and because they're fast, they're able to be very efficient predators. Their predatory diet will consist primarily of fish, about 85% fish, about 14% cephalopods, so squids, cuttlefish, things like that, and 1% crustaceans, which I'm betting is predominantly going to be like shrimp and everything. So they're very predatory, they're very successful at reproduction, they're fast growing. It's a very solid, stable fish species that's doing very well, even though it is pretty heavily fished, both commercially and recreationally. It's supposed to taste very similar to a mackerel, which is why it's so popular as a commercial fish, but then it's a highly prized sport fish. In fact, if you go to the images, you're basically going to find people, if you go to good pictures, you're basically going to find people fishing for them and holding up because they're very, very prized. And you can see here, this is an underwater camera shot of, I think, a younger one, but you kind of lose sense of depth here. This person is holding up a Wahoo, very, very, very prized. And I mean, of course they are. They're good size. You can find them not too far from land, and they're fast. They're very, they're a fighting species. I mean, they're one of the fastest pelagic species up there. Some things even said that they reach speeds up to 60 miles an hour. Don't know if I believe that, but probably around 30. 60 for extremely short distances, but 30 consistently because they're pretty migratory. They've been known to move very well. But because they are so heavily fished commercially and recreationally, I was unaware of the interesting fact we're going to end that video on, because you don't hear about it. And I guess it's because some people think it's gross and don't want to talk about it. They have a parasite. Most wild wahoo have a parasite in them. Now, obviously, it doesn't affect the portion that humans eat, but they have a parasite. And most of them have a giant stomach worm. And when I originally read that, I was like, oh, tapeworm, things like that, something long and stringy. That's what I had in my mind. So imagine my surprise when I got this. This is the Hirudinella ventricosa, which is a giant stomach worm. And this one was actually extracted from the stomach of a wahoo. This isn't just a picture one. This was actually from the stomach of a wahoo. Definitely not tapeworm, just like a huge internal leech, I think. I don't know. It's a pretty deal. Now, wahoos doesn't seem to bother a wahoo. So if it doesn't bother them, hey, go to town and survive, you little blood fluke. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If you don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Loving seeing all the comments. Love seeing everything. Thank you so much for the love support. If you'd like to support the channel even more, please click the link down below. It is by no means expected, but very much appreciated. Regardless, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And peace.